rotation. I want to do a rotating C. This is a C cycle. This is straight perspective, straight 2-point perspective. There's no 3-point perspective going on, and it's straight on the horizon line. By that I mean the viewpoint of the two-dimensional shape of the three-dimensional illusion on a two-dimensional plane is that the camera, or the viewpoint of the person drawing it, is straight down the center of the C. It's not from the upper left or upper right. It's not a 3/4 perspective or any kind of directional perspective. It's also not 3-point perspective. It's just 2. So what you're going to look at are these little, the way this drop shadow, if you will, or this extrusion, this illusion of an extrusion in the C, as it's rotating around, changes and morphs, while the C flips. That's a 180-degree flip, and then it continues up here and continues to the back side of the C, and then that continues back to the front, and then you start the cycle over again. So these are, in a sense, a drawn kind of pre-visualization to show you what this tutorial will be about, how to make a rotating C. So keep this in mind as you watch the shapes that I'm trying to put together, because this is what I'm trying to achieve. I think the most difficult part is this little part right here, where the indentation of the extruded interior of the C has a little bit of a copper dip and then goes straight to the edge. I don't know that I have that correct in what I'm doing very well, because it has to blend from here to a straight pretty quickly. So this little indentation has a very short life as it crawls from the sort of flat perspective of the C to a extruded backside, if you will. It sort of disappears really quickly as it comes around from here to there. So just note that that's going to be probably the toughest little piece to do anything about. Alright, this will be the basic block that the C will be made out of. And from this shape, I'm going to cut off 2 sides to make a, in a sense, a flying wedge, or sort of a thinned version. This will become the thinned version of it. I'm going to do the first shape is just C, so I'm getting a very skinny version of this prepared. It goes from being very fat to very skinny. So, and here's kind of the result of what I'm trying to achieve. As you can see, that's the skinny part of the C, and this is the thicker part. Okay. Now, ultimately, the C will be kind of like that. This being the center part of the C, the big fat part, and this being the skinnier edges. I'm going to go ahead and cut in now. This gets a little, because it gets to the tapering part pretty quickly like this. I'm going to go ahead and cut in the sort of clean 45-degree. It actually gets as with most things that rotate, it gets really skinny and really flat. So you can see that I'm trying to go from a 45 to a kind of flush nothing. This is kind of bumpy on the inside here, so I probably want to do a little bit of cleanup. Straighten this up. Straighten this up this way, and straighten this up this way. It gets really easy on these interior shapes to let them go a little wobbly on the inside. So carving this out so it wants to go flush again. I'll do it on the other side. I'm just trying to get the shapes a little cleaner and a little more precise. As with anything that morphs and changes shape in strata cut, it gets a little it can get really wobbly really fast on these delicate parts, and therefore loses definition. It starts to become not what your animation wants to be pretty fast if you don't pay attention to it. So pay attention. It takes a lot of effort in your mind to keep it straight. So I'm going to need, you know how I cut from this block to make that wedge shape. This is the basic part of the C. That was pretty simple. In fact, that's probably the simplest part of it. This comes from a big block of clay. You need two of them to create a cycle. So let's assume this is already cut. This is going to be the second C. And it's a little rattier, but it'll still work because it's made out of parts and pieces and these are basically the same idea. They're not ideally, that's actually not good enough. So these are a little smaller as a ratio. So maybe I need to go ahead and I'll make it out of another one that's more similar in shape. This one is made out of a lot of, rather than being a clean cut, clean block of cut, it's made out of a kind of ratty mixture of stuff, so it's a much nastier, it's going to be a lot nastier as a final look. I guess it's probably a good thing to show you how you can work with both bad and good. So you cut the 45 here and you try to slim it. Try to slim it down so it becomes flat by the time it reaches the taper. Cut the 45 here, and notice again that I'm trying to get it to roll. This is what rotating objects all need, this kind of care. They roll away as they're finishing their tapering to get from one side to another. Okay, so C is a little flat on the back. I want to open it up and curl it a little bit more so it's really a nicer shape. Okay, this is, well, the reason I want two of these is to show you that you have to kind of put, you have to imagine that the rotating C is, it's going to be built as two flipping opposites. In between these two flipping opposites, one of the easiest parts to imagine is this. It's a pivotal point, and I'll build that first. It's sort of a piece of cupped. It's a cup shape like this, but it's a little larger. it's a lot like the when you build a basketball or a rotating circle. It's the same kind of idea. It's a concave shape on both sides. It becomes exactly, if you were to cut it right through the middle, what you're trying to get is something that's exactly a rectangle. And from that flows something that's not at all a rectangle. It's curving to be the backside of the C. This shape is eventually becoming right here. It's going from this shape right here all the way through to become more and more curved, like about right here. It's already curved. Here it's more curved, and here it's just a tiny fraction of a shape. But I'm going to build this with some colors, and I'm going to use this let's see. This is probably a little taller. I'll go ahead and use this. It needs to be a backward cupped taper. The simplest way to start this is to kind of create your basic taper. So this is already skinny at both sides, and then begin to shape this by hand into a into the drop shadow. This is sort of the drop shadow extrusion part of the C. This is full rectangular, and then this is the other side as it's rotating away from us. And again, because it's two-point perspective and it's all seen from the center line, which is probably this is the easiest perspective to do, and that's why I'm showing it. This is the first step up from a rotating box or a rotating circle. Is trying to create rotating shapes that have